Spotlight then for this evening. The Modi government today released the names of the first 20 smart cities from the list of 99 that it hopes to develop in partnership with states and the private sector. Rituparna Bhuyan says that the war of words over the selection has already begun, with the opposition crying foul.
Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik will be all smiles, with Bhubaneswar topping the smart city charts, followed by Pune and Jaipur. Amongst the metros, only the NDMC area of Delhi made it to the list, while BJP-ruled Madhya Pradesh is the big winner with 3 cities, Jabalpur, Indore and Bhopal making it to the top 20.
प्रोसेस हमने की थी कंसल्टेशन की, कैसे बनना चाहिए, जो पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन था वो इंदौर, भोपाल और जबलपुर तीनों में जबरदस्त था। सारे पहलू और मापदंडों पर हम खरे उतरे, इसकी हमने तैयारी की थी, कोशिश की थी और उसी का ये परिणाम है।
A total of 50,802 crores will be spent over the next 5 years in these 20 cities, out of which 38,693 crores will be for area development. In all, a total area of 26,735 acres will be developed. Data showed that 18 cities will carry out retrofitting of existing infra, while only 1 has adopted the redevelopment mode. But to implement that smart city program, city municipalities will have to form SPVs, get themselves credit rated and issue municipal bonds.
In order to create sustainable projects, you will have to look at innovative financing methods. You will have to look at a much stronger and more accountable financial architecture, because don't forget that the implementation is going to be done through special purpose vehicles.
It was interesting to note that 7 out of the 11 states from which these 20 cities got selected are being ruled by BJP and its allies. The opposition was quick to react, slamming the selection process. While Congress came out to support Akhilesh Yadav's UP, former JNK CM Omar Abdullah took a dig at the PDP and the BJP for not selecting proposals from JNK. Urban Development Minister Venkaiah Naidu refuted allegations of selective selection.
The entire exercise is, as I told you, even the Urban Development Minister city also is not there at the first instance, not even proposed. If I wanted to be proposed, that would have been proposed automatically in Nellore. It was not proposed because it was not within the parameters alone.
A look at the selection criteria shows that Naidu has a point. Cities were scored on 13 parameters by 3 different panels. The proposals were scored on issues like increase in population, revenue collection, effectiveness in JNURM implementation, audit of accounts, and an online grievance redressal system. But to give another chance to cities that missed out in the first round, the government is willing to accept smart city applications from 23 other states. In New Delhi with Rituparna Bhuyan, Arif Sherwani.
And to discuss that further, now I'm joined by Sudeshna Chatterjee, architect and urban planner at Partner at KCA. Hi Sudeshna, thanks very much for joining us here on The Big Picture. So clearly, I mean, you know, our cities were in desperate need of an overall for quite some time. So, but in terms of the vision, how do you see the smart city announcement today?
We all know that India needs to invest in infrastructure, because it's actually got some of the one of the lowest spending countries in urban infrastructure among comparable economies. The smart city announcement today is obviously very skewed in favor of BJP-ruled states, or perhaps states where BJP is hoping to make some electoral gains. So there's no surprises there, really. But what is surprising experts like us, because all this talk about transparency and citizen bottom-up movement, etc., there's so little information about what these proposals really are and what was the selection process, who was really involved in it. So there's really a lot of unanswered questions there.
But there's also concern, you know, Sudeshna, many feel that these cities are so IT driven that it could potentially create a digital divide. And despite you know, India's mobile penetration, the fact of the matter is how many people are tech savvy enough to use smartphones and apps? Do you think in that sense it's a correct criticism?
See, again, without really looking at the detailed proposals, from whatever I had seen of the stage 1 competition, the proposals really were about infrastructure development, because that's how it is also structured, that they have to give a proposal for a smaller project within the city which is about 50 acres, then a slightly bigger project which is about 500 acres, and then a pan-city solution. And the pan-city solutions are all IT driven. They are not going to be anything to do with infrastructure. For example, I remember Raja Arhat Newtown in Calcutta had talked about a pan-city solution of putting that you can do FIRs on from an app, right? But now you're right. How many people use smartphones in India? We can talk about this digital revolution and everything. My own mother doesn't use a smartphone, and it is going to be a divide along the lines of age. It is going to be a divide along lines of literacy, class divides. When you're looking at Indian cities where more than 50% of the workforce is informal, and that doesn't really necessarily mean they don't have smartphones, but some of these apps are extremely complex, and some of the data that we are talking about that smart cities should have, at least in the West, the way the big data movement is going on, they're extremely complex to navigate.
You know, but the counter argument is the fact that the government is being bold and rightly slow. Clearly, the fact that technology is going to be the future, and the fact is the government has also announced Digital India. So therefore, in that sense, there is a clear congruence between the Digital India drive and the smart city drive, considering that IT is going to play such an important role. How do you look at those arguments?
There's nothing wrong in being bold, but the problem is Indian cities today are bogged down with African scale problems of garbage, of lack of sanitation, of lack of employment, of lack of housing options. And though there are many schemes which had been floated by this government, one really needs to see what really is the value add of the smart city. I remember in one of his initial speeches, the Prime Minister had said that it is about taking the city back from private developers and giving it to people. But really, when you look at the way the conceptualization and the implementation is going to happen, it is going to happen on the back of private development, back of private money. So really, one really worries about these contradictory, sort of the contradiction between the vision and its implementation.
The UPA government also had announced the JNURM scheme, but at the end of the day, a lot of promises that were made remained unmet. So compared to JNURM, how different do you see the smart city campaign of the NDA government?
See, the JNURM was the whole vision talked about a city development plan, which was a much larger holistic way of looking at a city, as opposed to the smart city plan, which is only looking at small projects within the city. Like I said, there are two scales of projects, one a smaller one and slightly medium scale one, and then there's a pan city project. And the pan city project is not about infrastructure at all. It is about IT based solutions to some existing problem. So this is also another question that arises here, is that, and a lot of critiques have commented on this, that this is one way of giving out multi-million-dollar contracts to a lot of these IT firms who in the first place coined the term smart cities as a new area of business for them.
But I'm a bit puzzled, Sudeshna. Why should that be a problem? Surely, considering our development needs, that cannot be entirely done by the government, and therefore private sector clearly has a role, and an important role to play at that.
Absolutely, and there's pretty much every city development project is happening through the PPP model, but there is very much a need to involve people in that model as well. Whatever little we have seen of people's participation, whether it's in JNURM or in the smart city movement, is at best a very tokenist way of participating. For example, I was in one of the cities which has now been selected as a smart city, and I was in a meeting with a lot of the elected representatives from different wards, and I asked them, did you participate in this visioning for the smart city? And they all said, yes, we participated. I said, so what was the proposal? And they didn't have a clue as to what was the proposal of smart city for that city, but they were all very happy they had been called to a meeting. And so this is the kind of tokenist participation which had also taken place and typically takes place in a lot of these kind of projects.
Well, thanks very much for that, Sudeshna. In fact, there's a lot of literature available now of saying that, which says that how another P should be added in the PPP model. The other P would be people. Well, on